Imagine waking up tomorrow to a world where a single financial decision you made today has multiplied your wealth exponentially, a world where the currency sitting dormant in a forgotten investment suddenly activates and rockets in value, changing lives and fortunes in a single, swift motion. This is not a scene from a speculative fiction novel. This is the very real, very palpable tension gripping the global financial community right now, a tension directly tied to a small, yet profoundly significant nation in the Middle East, Iraq. The catalyst for this seismic shift, the spark that has ignited a firestorm of analysis, hope, and frantic speculation, comes from one of the most powerful and traditionally conservative financial institutions on the planet, the International Monetary Fund. The recent IMF report on Iraq, which you can find linked directly in our description below, is not just another dry economic assessment filled with jargon that only economists can decipher. It is a document that reads like a blueprint for a fundamental economic rebirth, a carefully worded signal that the gears of a massive financial mechanism are finally, audibly, beginning to turn. For decades, the Iraqi dinar has been the subject of the most intense and controversial investment thesis in the modern era, a currency held down by war, by sanctions, by political instability, and by a centralized economic system that prevented it from interacting with the global market on its own true terms. Investors who saw potential were told they were dreaming, were chasing a fantasy, were being sold a pipe dream by unscrupulous promoters. But what if the narrative is changing? What if the very foundations of that dismissal are being systematically dismantled, not by hopeful gurus, but by the cold, hard, unassailable mandates of international finance? The IMF report meticulously outlines Iraq's staggering progress towards what is known as Article 8 status, a technical term that carries the weight of a financial supernova. In simple terms, accepting Article 8 means a country abolishes all restrictions on making payments and transfers for current international transactions. It is a pledge to the world that its currency will be freely convertible, that it will not use exchange controls to create an artificial, protected economy. This is the absolute bedrock of a strong, internationally recognized, and traded currency. Iraq has been working towards this for years, but the latest report indicates a level of compliance and structural reform that is unprecedented, suggesting that the final barriers are not just being lowered, they are being completely removed from their foundations. The report doesn't just hint at economic improvements, it details a complete overhaul, banking sector reforms that are creating institutions capable of operating on a global scale, anti-money laundering measures that build trust with foreign counterparts, and fiscal policies designed to stabilize the nation's budget and reduce its dependency on crude oil exports. Each of these points, dry as they may seem in a PDF document, is a thunderous step towards a single, inevitable conclusion, a revaluation of the Iraqi dinar to reflect the true, unshackled economic potential of a nation sitting on one of the world's largest reserves of oil and other natural resources. This isn't about creating millionaires overnight. This is about a nation reintegrating itself into the global financial system after a generation of isolation, and the mathematical necessity that its unit of account, its currency, must reflect its new reality. The value of a currency is ultimately a measure of confidence, confidence in its government, its economy, and its future. The IMF, by validating Iraq's progress in such a public and definitive manner, is issuing a global vote of confidence that cannot be ignored. This is the hook, the moment where speculation meets policy, where hope is backed by the most stringent of international benchmarks. The quiet whispers in financial circles are now becoming a coherent, undeniable roar, and the signal is breaking through the noise. This is the breaking news that changes everything, the report that will be studied for decades as the turning point. But this is only one piece of a much larger, global puzzle that is falling into place with astonishing speed, a puzzle that connects Baghdad to another, equally strategic part of the world, a connection that confirms this is not an isolated event but a coordinated, geopolitical masterstroke. And that strategic connection, that crucial second piece of the puzzle, leads us thousands of miles away from the deserts of Iraq to the bustling economic landscape of Vietnam, because what we are witnessing is not a series of isolated financial events but a synchronized recalibration of global alliances, a deliberate and strategic move that places the United States at the very center of a new economic architecture. While the IMF was finalizing its report on Iraq, a parallel and equally monumental development was unfolding, a high-stakes trade and currency negotiation between the United States and Vietnam, a negotiation that culminated in a powerful joint statement, also linked in the description below, which explicitly lays the groundwork for a partnership that will have profound implications for global currency markets, and yes, for the future of the Iraqi dinar. The U.S. Vietnam deal is a masterclass in economic statecraft, focusing on critical areas like semiconductor supply chains, cloud computing, and digital innovation, but woven into the fabric of this agreement is a critical understanding about currency stability and transparency. The United States, through these negotiations, is actively fostering an economic environment where its partners maintain market-determined exchange rates, avoiding currency manipulation and creating a network of stable, reliable, and strong currencies that can facilitate trade and investment without the friction of volatile or artificially suppressed valuations. This is the context that the mainstream financial media is completely missing. They report on the Iraq story and the Vietnam story as separate, disconnected headlines, failing to see the grand strategy that connects them. The United States is strategically and deliberately building a coalition of economically stable nations, a network of partners with strong, freely traded currencies, to create a more resilient and dollar-aligned global financial system, a system less vulnerable to the shocks and manipulations of adversarial economic powers. Now, place Iraq squarely within this strategy. A stable, economically reformed, and prosperous Iraq, with a currency that is freely convertible and valued at a rate commensurate with its vast natural resource wealth and strategic geographic position, is an incredibly powerful ally in a volatile region. A strong Iraqi dinar would allow Iraq to import U.S. goods and technology without the crippling burden of an artificially weak currency. It would allow for massive infrastructure projects to be funded and built in partnership with American companies, and it would create a new, robust market for U.S. exports, from agricultural machinery to financial services. The United States has invested trillions of dollars, both in financial terms and in human capital, in the future of Iraq, and a strong, economically independent Iraq, fully integrated into the global financial system, is the ultimate return on that investment. The Vietnam deal provides the blueprint. It shows the U.S. playbook for elevating a strategic partner through economic integration and currency cooperation. The IMF report on Iraq provides the validation, confirming that Iraq is now meeting the technical requirements to step onto that very stage. This is the convergence, the moment where two separate data points from opposite sides of the world fuse into a single, undeniable trend. It is the pattern that reveals the truth. The revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is not merely a speculative event for currency traders, it is a geopolitical imperative, a necessary step in a larger American-led strategy to secure economic partnerships and ensure global stability. This is why the news is breaking now, why these reports are surfacing with such synchronicity. The groundwork has been laid in the shadows of high-level diplomacy and technical compliance, and now the pieces are being revealed to the world. The train has already left the station, the public is only just now hearing the whistle. This coordinated effort signals that the timeline is accelerating, that the theoretical is becoming the imminent. The door of opportunity, once believed to be sealed shut, is now creaking open, and the light pouring through is the combined force of international policy and strategic national interest. But understanding this grand strategy is one thing, knowing what it means for you, the individual, and what you must do in the face of this information is the final, and most critical, piece of this entire puzzle, a piece that brings us to the immediate present and the actions you must take before the next headline breaks. So what does this convergence of the IMF's validation and America's strategic economic alliances mean for you, sitting at home watching this screen? It means that the abstract world of international finance has just collided with your personal reality, and the window to process this information and act upon it is narrower than anyone is willing to admit. We have moved from the why and the how and arrived squarely at the when and the what now. The most critical mistake you can make at this precise moment is to succumb to inertia, to file this away as just another interesting video and assume you have time to deliberate, to wait for a headline on a major news network that says, Iraqi dinar revalues effective immediately. By that point, by the time the story reaches the masses, the opportunity will have evaporated, the dramatic financial shift will have occurred, the wealth transfer will be complete, and you will be on the outside looking in, reading about the life-changing gains of those who understood the signals and had the courage to act before the fact. This is the fundamental nature of paradigm-shifting events, they are only obvious in hindsight. Your mission, right now, is to bridge the gap between the information you possess and the decisive action it demands. This is not about reckless gambling, this is about educated, strategic positioning based on original source data from the IMF and the U.S. Department of Commerce. It is about recognizing that the highest rewards always go to those who see the path before the crowd has even realized there is a path to be seen. Think of your investment not as a bet on a random currency, but as a stake in the validated, IMF-approved economic resurrection of a nation and the successful execution of a clear U.S. geopolitical strategy. You are aligning your personal portfolio with the undeniable tides of global finance and statecraft. The research has been done for you, the original documents have been provided to you, and the analysis connecting these dots has been laid out in this very narrative. The only missing component is your decision. This is your call to action, your moment to step out of the audience and onto the stage of your own financial future. The first and most immediate step you must take is to absorb everything you can from reliable, daily sources that track these developments without the filter of mainstream media skepticism. You need to become a student of this event. That is precisely why you must subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell right now, because we